After I refused to put my brother on my health insurance, he called my job and reported me for benefit fraud. I was suspended without pay. When I called him crying, he said, "I told you. Either we rise together or you fall alone." I didn't argue. I just submitted the call recording and the HR rep's response was, "I've always been the responsible one in my family. It wasn't by choice, it was survival. I grew up in Columbus, Ohio. My dad walked out when I was in middle school, and my mom died from a stroke when I was 23. That left me with Darren, my younger brother, who was 14 at the time. I'd just started a job in patient services at a hospital and suddenly became a parent. I didn't have time to grieve. I had to pay bills, keep Darren in school, and figure out how to feed us both. There were nights I ate rice just so he could have enough for school lunch the next day. When he got into trouble for stealing video games from Walmart, I drove to the police station, sat with him for hours, and bailed him out with money I didn't have. Over the years, I kept waiting for Darren to grow up, to realize how hard I fought to give him something stable. But he never did. He floated through jobs, lied to girlfriends, blew his money on crap he didn't need, then came to me when the bills piled up. And I kept helping. Rent money. Phone bills. Even paid off his damn car, once when it was about to get repossessed. Every time he said, "I swear this is the last time." Every time, I believed him. I worked my way up in the hospital system. 11 years. No vacations, no plans. I moved from front desk to department scheduler to benefits coordinator. Decent pay, full health coverage, and finally some peace. Then in February, Darren called me sounding panicked. He'd been let go from another warehouse job, his third in 2 years, and had just been diagnosed with high blood pressure. He said he needed coverage fast. I told him I'd help him get on Medicaid or find an ACA plan, but he wasn't hearing it. He said, "No, I need something now. Just add me to your plan. You work in HR, you know how this stuff works." I told him that's not how it works. You can't just throw someone on your insurance. It's fraud. You get caught, you lose everything. He snapped. "You'd really choose your job over your own brother? I'd do it for you." I remembered just sitting there, numb. I told him I was sorry, but no, I couldn't do it. I told him I'd send him some cash to help, but that wasn't enough. He hung up, didn't text back. 2 weeks later, HR called me in. The tone was stiff, formal. They said someone had submitted a report through the ethics hotline. The caller claimed I had listed an ineligible dependent, my brother, on my insurance plan. They knew his name, his birth date. Said I was abusing my position in benefits. They had screenshots of texts, emails. None of it real. I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. I kept shaking my head, telling them no, that wasn't true, but they were already sliding a paper across the desk, suspension without pay, pending a full investigation. When I got home, I completely broke down. I'd held it together for years, buried every insult, every manipulation from Darren, but that night I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe. I felt stupid, ashamed, powerless. I called him. I was crying so hard I could barely speak. I just said, "Did you really do this? Did you report me?" He didn't even try to deny it. Just paused, then said, "I told you. Either we rise together or you fall alone." Then he hung up. That sentence ran through my head all night like poison. And then I remembered, I had started recording some of our calls months ago. At first just so I could go back and make sure I wasn't crazy, that I really had told him no, that I wasn't imagining how manipulative he was becoming. I dug through my old files and found it. The call. Clear as day. Him saying that line. No background noise. No edits. The next morning, I sent the audio file to HR with a short note. "Please listen. This is my brother, Darren." Later that day, the HR rep called me back. Her voice was cold, tight, but there was a slight change in tone. Not friendly, but less accusing. She said, "Thank you for sending the recording. We'll be reviewing it with legal and compliance today." That was it.
No επαλεγεί. No reassurance.
I was still suspended, still cut off from my paycheck, still under a cloud of suspicion. Days went by. I stayed home, barely eating. I called HR twice to follow up, but they said they couldn't comment during an ongoing investigation. I started getting behind on bills. I had to pause my car payment, cancel my dental appointment, and pull from my savings just to cover rent. I tried to distract myself, but the silence was brutal. All I could think about was how fast everything I'd built was falling apart. Over a lie. Over my own brother. That's when things got worse. I got a letter in the mail from the state unemployment office. Someone had filed a claim under my name. It said I was currently unemployed and had requested benefits. I hadn't filed anything. I called the number and reported the fraud. They flagged the account, but I could tell by the woman's tone that this wasn't rare. She told me to keep an eye on my credit, like this was just another part of the mess. Then I checked my credit report. 2 new credit cards had been opened in my name. Both maxed out. One had over $3,000 in charges from gas stations, liquor stores, and some vape shop in Dayton. That's when I knew Darren wasn't just trying to hurt me. He was trying to bury me. I confronted him through text. I wrote, "You opened credit cards in my name? You filed for unemployment as me? You're going to jail."
He didn't deny it.
He replied, "You made me do it. You chose a system that never did anything for us. Don't act like you're better." That flipped a switch in me. This wasn't desperation anymore. This was hate, jealousy, a need to drag me down just because he never climbed up. I filed a police report. Fraud, identity theft. Gave them his address in Dayton. Gave them every email, text, and that call recording. They told me it could take time. Maybe months. I felt like I was screaming into a void. Then one morning, I got a call from a restricted number. It was HR. The rep's tone was different this time. She said, "We've completed our investigation. We reviewed your audio file. We also cross-checked internal records and found that no changes had ever been made to your benefits file. You're being reinstated effective immediately." I was so relieved I almost dropped the phone. But then she added, "We'll be reporting the harassment and attempted fraud to law enforcement on our end as well." It felt like something had shifted, like I wasn't alone in this anymore. But Darren wasn't done. 3 days later, someone keyed my car. Deep gouges across both sides. "Traitor" was scratched into the driver's side door.
I didn't even need to ask.
I knew. That's when I made a choice. This wasn't about survival anymore. This was about making sure he never had the power to do this to anyone again. And I knew exactly where to start. I started digging into Darren's life the way he had dug into mine. I wasn't looking for revenge yet, I just needed leverage, something real I could use. I knew he had burned bridges, but I didn't know how bad it had gotten. I reached out to his last ex, Tasha, the one who lived with him in Dayton for about a year. She didn't want to talk at first. Said Darren still owed her $800 and left her car on empty the day he walked out. But when I told her what he did to me, she cracked. "Oh, he's been stealing identities for years," she said flat out. "Used my cousin's social to get a phone plan. He even used his own kid's info for a payday loan." That stopped me cold. His kid? She told me Darren had a 5-year-old daughter. He never mentioned her to me. Not once. "He's got court papers and everything," she said. "That's why he moved to Dayton. He was trying to dodge child support." I asked her to send me what she had. She emailed screenshots, old court summons, a wage garnishment notice, and one chilling piece of paper. A notice of a missed court date for failure to pay child support, dated just 2 months earlier. Now I had something real. Something bigger than just what he did to me. I contacted the child support office in Dayton and gave them everything. I also sent in a copy of the call recording and the police report I had filed. I didn't expect a response, but within a week, I got one from a caseworker named Ms. Gonzalez. She told me Darren had a warrant out for contempt of court tied to the unpaid child support. He was officially a fugitive. That same week, I received a manila envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside were printed screenshots of emails I'd never seen before, where someone had posed as me, emailing my boss and asking odd questions about job transfers, salary, and HR protocols. It was Darren. I could tell from the language, He wrote like he talked, all attitude and half-spelled words. He was trying to get into my workplace systems by pretending to be me. He must have thought he could fish for login info or security gaps. And then, the final blow, I got a call from my hospital's cybersecurity officer. They had flagged suspicious login attempts on our HR server coming from an IP address in Dayton. The username used was a close version of mine, with one letter changed. They were launching a full internal investigation and working with authorities. The officer said, "We believe this was an attempted breach tied to your previous harassment claim. It's being treated as a criminal matter." Now, everything was in motion. Not just my word. Not just my pain. Real evidence. Real crimes. Law enforcement was involved. And Darren? He had no clue what was coming. But I wasn't done. I wanted him to feel the way I had. Helpless, exposed, cornered. So I made one last call. To his employer. Or rather, the place he was freelancing under a fake name doing side work fixing HVAC systems. I had his fake business name from a PayPal record Tasha had sent me. I called the owner of the contracting company he was working for and told him everything, quietly, clearly, with dates, evidence, and a digital folder ready to share. His response? "That son of a bitch used my business insurance for a job last week. If this is true, he's done." Everything was falling into place. Darren thought he could burn my life down without consequences. But what he didn't know was that I was lighting a fuse of my own. 2 weeks after I sent everything, emails, call logs, court documents, and IP addresses, Darren was arrested outside a gas station in Dayton. It didn't make the news or anything, but Tasha texted me when she saw the cops pull him out of his van in handcuffs. He had no clue they were coming. He thought he was untouchable. Turns out, that child support warrant had been active for months, and once law enforcement connected it to the identity theft and attempted system breach at a hospital, they fast-tracked the case. It wasn't just about family court anymore. It was fraud, harassment, cybercrimes. He got arraigned in Montgomery County. I wasn't there in person, but I watched the hearing online. He looked like he hadn't slept. Greasy hair. Hollow eyes. And when the judge read off the charges, attempted identity theft, computer trespassing, violation of a protective order, which HR had pushed for on my behalf, he barely spoke. He tried to say something to the judge about just trying to get what he deserved. But the judge wasn't moved. Set bail at $25,000. No one posted it. While he sat in jail, I kept going. I pushed the hospital to pursue civil action.
They did.
Their legal team sent a demand for damages tied to the IT breach attempt. I gave a full statement. I didn't sugarcoat anything. I told them about the mental toll, the unpaid suspension, the vandalism, the fear. They issued a permanent no-contact order and made his name known internally to all hiring departments in our network. He would never work in healthcare again, anywhere a network touched. And me? I went back to work. Quietly. I kept my head down. For weeks, I couldn't trust anyone. Couldn't even check my email without flinching. But slowly, I rebuilt. I also pressed charges for identity theft. At first, the detective said it might be hard to prove intent. But then I showed them the fake unemployment claim and the credit card records. That sealed it. He pled out 2 years probation, restitution payments, and a felony record. His life was wrecked. But not because I wanted revenge. Because he did this to himself. I still got letters from him while he was locked up. Rambling stuff. Apologies mixed with insults. One said, "You were supposed to help me. You forgot who we are." I didn't respond to any of them. Not once. I just kept working. Paid off the damage to my car. Paid off the credit debt he left behind. Bit by bit. And eventually I stopped feeling guilty. Because I had helped him. More than once. More than I should have. The truth is, he wasn't just my brother, he was my burden. And I finally let him go. I didn't get my revenge by hurting him. I got it by surviving him. And making damn sure he could never hurt me or anyone else again.